Dr. Elena Vasquez sat in front of her computer screen at 3 in the morning. She had been doing this job for 15 years now, listening to the empty sounds of space. Most nights brought nothing but static and random noise from distant stars. But tonight was different. The signal came through at exactly 3:47 a.m. At first, Lena thought her equipment was broken. The pattern was too clean, too organized to be natural. She ran the data through her analysis programs 3 times. Each time, the result was the same. This was not random cosmic noise. Someone or something had sent this message on purpose. Elena's hands shook as she called her team. Within 2 hours, 12 scientists crowded into the small control room at the Arecibo Deep Space Array in Puerto Rico. They worked together to decode the signal, and what they found made everyone go silent. The message contained coordinates, pointing to a star system 47 light-years away. It showed images of a planet being destroyed. It had mathematical formulas that could only mean one thing. This was a distress call. Someone out there needed help, and they had reached across the impossible distance of space to ask Earth for it. The beings who sent the message called themselves the Kalari. The fragmentary images showed tall humanoid figures with skin that seemed to glow. Their world was dying. They were begging for rescue from anyone who might hear them. Elena immediately sent the decoded message to the United Earth Space Command. She knew this would change everything. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel 3 years ago. The technology was new and dangerous. No human ship had traveled more than 5 light-years from Earth. Now they were being asked to go almost 50 light-years, a way to save aliens they had never met. Commander James Okonkwo received the message at his office in Geneva. He was a practical man, a military officer who dealt in facts and numbers. His first instinct was to ignore it. Earth had its own problems. Why should humans risk their lives for unknown aliens in a distant star system? But then he saw the second part of the Kalari message. Along with their plea for help, they had sent something else. Detailed blueprints for advanced technology. Energy systems that could power a city for a year with a device the size of a car. Propulsion designs that made Earth's quantum drives look like children's toys. Medical technology that could cure diseases humanity had struggled with for centuries. The Kalari weren't just asking for charity. They were offering payment. They were offering humanity a leap forward of perhaps 100 years of development. All they asked in return was rescue. Commander Okonkwo called an emergency meeting. Within 72 hours, representatives from every nation on Earth gathered at the United Nations building in New York. The debate was fierce. Some argued that this was clearly a trap. Others said that even if it was real, humanity wasn't ready for this kind of mission. The risks were too great. But there was another side to the argument. Dr. Elena Vasquez spoke to the assembly via video link. She told them that this was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. The first time humans encountered intelligent alien life, what would they do? Would they turn away? Would they let an entire civilization die because helping was difficult and dangerous? The vote took 3 days. In the end, it was unanimous. Earth would send a rescue fleet. Admiral Sarah Chen was chosen to command the mission. She was 52 years old and had spent 30 years in the Space Navy. She had commanded the first successful faster-than-light test flight 2 years earlier. If anyone could lead this impossible mission, it was her. The fleet consisted of 5 ships, 3 frigates armed with humanity's most advanced weapons, the USS Defiant, the USS Valiant, and the USS Guardian. 1 medical vessel called the USS Mercy, equipped to handle thousands of refugees, and the flagship, the massive carrier USS Endeavour, which would carry the command crew and serve as the main refugee transport. Each ship was fitted with the experimental quantum drives that allowed faster-than-light travel. The engineers who installed them were honest about the risks. The drives had only been tested on short jumps. No one knew if they could handle a journey of 47 light-years. The drives could fail. They could explode. They could tear a ship apart at the molecular level. But they were humanity's only chance of reaching the Kalari in time. The crew selection process took 2 weeks. Over 50,000 people volunteered for the mission. Admiral Chen chose carefully. She needed people who were skilled, brave, and willing to die far from home for strangers they had never met. Dr. Elena Vasquez was offered a position as Chief Communications Officer aboard the Endeavour. She accepted immediately. The signal had haunted her dreams since the night it arrived. She felt responsible somehow, as if by hearing it first, she had made a promise to answer it. The fleet gathered at Luna Orbital Station, a massive space dock that orbited Earth's moon. Families came to say goodbye to the crew members. Everyone knew this might be a one-way trip. The journey to the Kalari homeworld would take 6 months using the quantum drives. 6 months there, time for the rescue operation, and 6 months back. If everything went perfectly, the fleet would return in a little over a year. But space never let things go perfectly. On the day of departure, Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Endeavour and looked at her crew. They were young and old, from every nation on Earth, speaking dozens of languages. But they all shared one thing. They had all chosen to be here. They had all decided that this mission mattered. Alina stood at her communications station, her fingers resting on the controls that would send the final message to Earth before they left. She thought about the Kalari waiting in their dying star system, wondering if anyone had heard their call. She thought about the risk humanity was taking, sending their best ships and their bravest people into the unknown. Admiral Chen gave the order. The quantum drives began to charge. Reality itself seemed to shimmer around the 5 ships. The crew felt a strange sensation. It's like being pulled in every direction at once. Then the Endeavour and its escort ships punched through the fabric of space itself. One moment they were orbiting Earth's moon. The next moment they were gone, leaving only a brief flash of blue light somewhere. 47 light-years away, the Kalari were still broadcasting their distress signal into the void. They had no way of knowing if anyone would answer. They had no way of knowing that 5 human ships were now racing through folded space to reach them. The rescue fleet was coming. Humanity had heard the call, and humanity had answered. The quantum jump felt like dying and being reborn in the same instant. Alina gripped her console as the Endeavour tore through normal space and emerged somewhere else entirely. Her vision blurred. Her stomach twisted. For a few seconds she couldn't remember her own name. Then it passed. The main view screen flickered to life, showing an unfamiliar starfield. They had traveled 15 light-years in less than a second. They were now farther from Earth than any human had ever been. The jump had worked, but it had cost them. Engineering reported that the quantum drive needed 3 weeks to recharge before it could jump again. The medical bay filled with crew members suffering from disorientation, nausea, and splitting headaches. 2 people had seizures during the transition. Dr. Amara Asay, the chief medical officer, worked around the clock to help everyone recover. Admiral Chen gathered her senior staff for a briefing. Commander Okonkwo, who served as her second-in-command, delivered the news. They would need to make 5 more jumps to reach the Kalari system. Each jump would push the drives closer to failure. Each jump would leave the crew weakened for hours, or even days. Alina spent the 3 weeks between jumps working with Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the fleet's xenolinguist. Together, they analyzed every piece of the Kalari transmission. As they decoded more data, a terrible picture emerged. The Kalari hadn't been vague about their crisis. They were specific and desperate. Their star system was being systematically destroyed by machines they called the Harvesters. These weren't natural disasters or environmental collapse. These were deliberate attacks by an unknown intelligence that consumed entire planets for raw materials the Kalari had tried to fight. Their transmissions showed battle footage, Kalari warships firing energy weapons at massive mechanical structures. But they were losing badly. The Harvesters adapted to every tactic. They reproduced faster than the Kalari could destroy them. One by one, the Kalari colonies fell silent. Dr. Tanaka showed Alina a particularly disturbing transmission. It was a message from a Kalari mother to her daughter, recorded just before a Harvester attack. The woman spoke in a melodic language that the translation software could only partially interpret, but the meaning was clear. She was saying goodbye. Alina couldn't sleep that night. She kept thinking about all the families who had sent messages like that, hoping someone would remember them after they were gone. The second jump went worse than the first. The UESS Valiant's quantum drive overheated, and they had to shut it down for emergency repairs. The jump left 40 crew members unconscious. One man died from a brain hemorrhage. Admiral Chen ordered a memorial service. They sent his body into space according to his wishes. Tensions began to rise throughout the fleet. During the long stretches of slower-than-light travel between jumps, people had time to think. Time to wonder if this mission was worth it. Time to be afraid. Lieutenant Marcus Webb became the voice of the doubters. He was a good officer, skilled and brave, but he questioned the entire mission. During meals in the crew mess hall, he asked questions that other people were afraid to voice. Why were they risking human lives for aliens they had never met? What if the harvesters followed them back to Earth? What if they were flying into a trap? Some crew members agreed with him. Others got angry. Fights broke out. Admiral Chen had to intervene personally several times to keep order. Alina found herself defending the mission in conversations she never expected to have. She told people about the signal, about the desperation in it, about what it meant that someone had reached across space to ask for help. But she could see doubt in their eyes. She felt it in her own heart sometimes. Late at night, when the weight of distance from home pressed down on her, the third and fourth jumps brought the fleet 35 light-years from Earth. They were now in a region of space that no human had ever seen. The stars looked different here. Earth's sun was invisible, just one dim point of light among billions. During the rest period after the fourth jump, long-range sensors detected something unexpected. Debris fields floating in the empty space between stars. The scanner operator called Admiral Chen to the bridge in the middle of the night. Alina arrived minutes later and saw what the sensors had found. The debris was artificial. Pieces of ships scattered across thousands of kilometers. The metallurgy was unknown, but the configuration matched the Kalari vessel designs from their transmissions. These were escape ships. The Kalari had tried to flee their system. Something had destroyed them out here in the dark between the stars. Admiral Chen ordered the fleet to investigate. As they approached the debris field, they found something that made everyone's blood run cold. Cryostasis pods, hundreds of them, floating among the wreckage. Most were damaged and dark, but a few still showed power readings. There were survivors. The recovery operation took 6 hours. They brought 12 pods aboard the Endeavour. Dr. Osei and her medical team worked carefully to revive the occupants. 3 survived the revival process. The others had been frozen too long, their cells damaged beyond repair. The 3 survivors were Kalari. Alina stood in the medical bay and saw an alien being for the first time in her life. The Kalari were taller than humans, nearly 7 feet on average. Their skin had a faint luminescence, glowing with colors that seemed to shift with their emotions. They had large eyes, long fingers, and a gracefulness to their movements that seemed almost dance-like. The one who seemed to be their leader was named Theralyn. She held the rank of counselor in the Kalari government. Through the translation devices that Dr. Tanaka quickly assembled, Theralyn told them what had happened. The Kalari had tried to evacuate their system 3 months ago. They sent out 50 ships carrying civilians, hoping to reach another habitable world before the harvesters destroyed everything. But the machines followed them. They hunted down the refugee ships one by one. Theralyn's ship had been attacked just 2 weeks ago. She and thousands of others went into cryostasis, hoping someone would find them. Then Theralyn delivered the warning that changed everything. She told Admiral Chen that the human fleet was heading into certain death. The harvesters had completely taken over the Kalari system. Any ship that entered would be destroyed within minutes. The machines were too numerous, too powerful, too intelligent. Theralyn begged them to turn back. She said the Kalari appreciated that humanity had tried, but it was too late. Her people were gone. There was no one left to save. The fleet held an emergency meeting. Commander Okonkwo presented the facts. They had traveled 35 light-years. They had lost 1 crew member and suffered dozens of injuries. Now they knew that the situation was even worse than expected. If they continued, they would almost certainly die. Lieutenant Webb spoke up immediately. He said they should turn back now while they still could. Take the 3 Kalari survivors to Earth, share what they had learned, and count themselves lucky to be alive. No one could blame them for retreating in the face of impossible odds. Admiral Chen listened to every opinion. Then she asked Thurlin a direct question. Were there any Kalari left alive in their home system? Thurlin's skin pulsed with sorrowful blue light. She said yes. There was one last convoy of civilian ships trapped near their system's 4th planet. They were hiding in a debris field, surrounded by harvester drones. Maybe 50,000 people. Maybe less by now. They had no way to escape. They were waiting to die. The bridge went silent. 50,000 people. An entire civilization's last survivors. Alina made a decision she knew might haunt her forever. She opened a communication channel to Earth and transmitted everything they had learned. She sent Thurlin's warnings. She sent the data about the harvesters. She told Earth that the fleet might not come back. Then she sent a private message to Admiral Chen. Just for words. They have nowhere else. Admiral Chen stood and addressed her senior staff. She said that they had come too far to turn back now. 50,000 lives hung in the balance. If there was even a chance of saving some of them, humanity had to try. Lieutenant Webb shook his head but said nothing. Commander Okonkwo nodded slowly. Dr. Osei gripped her medical data pad and whispered a prayer. The fleet made its final jump. They left normal space and plunged toward the Epsilon Eridani system. Toward the harvesters. Toward whatever waited for them there. Thera Dashlin watched the humans prepare for battle. Her skin glowed with an emotion the translation devices couldn't quite capture. It was something between gratitude and grief. She whispered something in her own language that Dr. Tanaka later translated. They don't even know us, and they're willing to die for us. Alina heard it and felt tears in her eyes. She hoped they weren't about to prove how foolish bravery could be. The fleet emerged from the quantum jump at the edge of the Epsilon Eridani system, and what they saw broke something inside every person who witnessed it. The Kolari homeworld appeared on the main view screen. In their transmissions, it had been beautiful. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling in familiar patterns. A world that looked almost like Earth. Now it was a corpse. The oceans were gone, evaporated or drained. The continents were stripped down to bare rock, carved into geometric patterns by mechanical mining operations. The atmosphere was thin and brown, choked with dust from the planetary excavation. Massive structures orbited the dead world, each one the size of Earth's moon. They were the harvesters. Alina counted them on her screen. 32 capital units visible from their position. Countless smaller drones moving between them, carrying materials, coordinating the systematic consumption of everything the Kolari had ever built. Lieutenant Webb stood at his tactical station and ran the numbers. His face went pale. Even if every human weapon worked perfectly, even if they destroyed 3 harvester units for every ship they lost, the math was simple. The human fleet would be completely annihilated, and the harvesters would barely notice. Admiral Chen sat in her command chair and stared at the screen. For a long moment, she said nothing. Alina could see her calculating, weighing impossible choices. Thurlin stood at the edge of the bridge, her skin pulsing with deep purple grief. She was looking at her homeworld's corpse. Alina went to stand beside her. No words seemed adequate, so she simply put a hand on the Kalari woman's shoulder. Thurlin made a sound that might have been crying. Commander Okonkwo broke the silence. Admiral, long-range scans are detecting something near the 4th planet. The view screen shifted to show new data. A massive debris field orbited the system's 4th planet, the remains of shattered moons and destroyed orbital stations. And hiding within that field, clustered together like frightened children, were dozens of Kalari civilian ships. The convoy. The last survivors. But they weren't alone. Harvester drones swarmed around the debris field like mechanical sharks, taking occasional strikes at the civilian ships. The Kalari vessels were trying to defend themselves, but their weapons were weak. As the human fleet watched, one of the civilian ships exploded under concentrated drone fire. Thousands of lives gone in an instant. Thurlin. made a sound that needed no translation. It was pure anguish. Admiral Chen stood up. Tactical assessment, Commander. Can we reach that convoy? Commander Okonkwo worked quickly, running simulations. He shook his head. Not directly. If we approach, the capital units will converge on us. We'd be destroyed before we got halfway there. He paused, then added quietly. But if we could draw their attention elsewhere, create a diversion, we might be able to create a corridor. A brief window. How brief? 20 minutes. Maybe 30 if we're lucky. Admiral Chen looked at the convoy on the screen. 50,000 people. 20 minutes to save them all? It was impossible. Lieutenant Webb spoke up. Admiral, we can't do this. It's suicide. Even if we create a diversion, we don't have the cargo capacity to evacuate 50,000 people in 30 minutes. He was right, and everyone knew it. But Dr. Asay stepped forward with a different calculation. We don't need to take all 50,000 in the first run. We just need to take as many as we can, then jump away and come back. She paused. If the harvesters let us come back... Admiral Chen made her decision. We're going in. All frigates will engage the harvester drones and draw the capital units away from the convoy. The Endeavor and the Mercy will move in and begin evacuation operations. Load every cargo bay, every corridor, every available space. We take as many as we can, and we don't leave until we have to. The crew moved into action. Battle stations sounded throughout the fleet. In the Endeavor's cargo bays, engineers and medical staff worked frantically to convert storage areas into temporary. Refugee centers. Alina opened a communication channel to the Kolari convoy. With Thurlin's help, she transmitted a message in the Kolari language. This is the Earthship Endeavor. We're here to help. Prepare for evacuation. The response came back immediately, a chorus of voices speaking over each other in desperate hope and disbelief. They had been waiting to die. Now someone was coming for them. The 3 frigates moved first. The UESS, Defiant, Valiant, and Guardian accelerated toward the nearest cluster of harvester drones. At 5,000 kilometers, K opened fire. Earth's railgun technology was crude compared to energy weapons, but it was effective. Solid projectiles traveling at a significant fraction of light speed punched through drone after drone. The first salvo destroyed 15 harvester units. The harvester's response was immediate. Energy beams lanced out from the capital units, precise and devastating. The Defiant took a direct hit to its port side. Armor plating vaporized. Crew members died, but the diversion worked. The harvester capital units began moving toward the human frigates. Away from the convoy, Admiral Chen saw the window opening. Endeavor and Mercy. Full speed to the convoy. We have our 20 minutes. Let's not waste them. The 2 massive ships accelerated toward the debris field. As they approached, the Kolari civilian ships began maneuvering to dock, but they were clumsy, damaged, desperate. It was chaos. Alina coordinated the docking procedures, talking to Kolari ship captains who barely understood her translated words. Airlock 3, slowly watch your approach vector. The first Kolari ship connected to the Endeavor with a shuddering crash. The airlock cycled, and then they came through Kolari families carrying whatever they could grab. Children with luminescent skin that flickered with fear, elderly Kolari who moved slowly on damaged legs. They flooded into the cargo bay. Dr. Asay and her medical teams tried to organize the chaos. This way, please. Everyone stay together. We'll get you all aboard. More ships docked. More refugees streamed in. The Endeavor's corridors filled with Kolari who pressed against the walls, making room for more. They were quiet, disciplined, even in their terror. They trusted these strange aliens who had come from nowhere to save them. On the tactical display, Alina watched the frigates fighting a desperate battle. They were outnumbered 100-1, using hit-and-run tactics, never staying in one place long enough for the harvesters to target them effectively. Then she saw the U.S. Valiant take multiple hits. Its shields collapsed. Its hull began to breach. The ship tried to retreat. 3 harvester capital units surrounded it, Commander Okonkwo's voice came over the fleet channel. Valiant is lost. All crew to escape pods. But there was nowhere for the escape pods to go. They would be picked off one by the drones. Alina watched in horror as the Valiant exploded. 347 crew members, gone in a flash of white light. Admiral Chen's voice was steady despite the loss. Continue evacuation. How many aboard? Dr. Osei answered, her voice shaking. 20,000 so far? But Admiral, we're at capacity. The corridors are packed. Life support is straining. We can't take more without risking everyone. 20,000 out of 50,000? Less than half? Thurlan spoke quietly beside Alina. It's enough. You've done more than we ever dared hope. Please, save the ones you have. Don't die for the rest of us. But Admiral Chen shook her head. We have cargo bays that aren't full. We have maintenance tunnels. We have room. She looked at Dr. Osei. Keep loading. The Kalari ships kept docking. The Endeavor groaned under the weight of bodies. In some corridors, Kalari refugees stood shoulder to shoulder, unable to move. But they stayed quiet, stayed calm, trusting the humans who were risking everything for them. Alina saw Kalari parents holding children close. She saw families who had probably lost half their members already, clinging to whoever was left. She saw a Kalari child, no more than 5 years old, in human terms, with skin that glowed soft green. The child was crying, and a human crew member knelt down to comfort her. Speaking gentle words the child couldn't understand, but responding to anyway. This was why they came. This was what humanity had chosen to be. 15 minutes had passed. The Harvester Capital units were adapting to the frigate's tactics. The Defiant and Guardian were taking heavy damage 20-5 minutes. 30,000 refugees aboard the Endeavor and Mercy. 30 minutes? The Harvesters broke through the frigate's defensive pattern. They began moving back toward the convoy. Admiral, we're out of time, Commander Okonkwo reported. The Capital units are repositioning. If we don't jump now, we won't get another chance. 40,000 refugees aboard. 10,000 still waiting. Admiral Chen looked at the tactical display. At the Kalari ships still trying to dock. At the families still hoping for rescue. Prepare the quantum drives, she said quietly. We jump in 2 minutes. Those 2 minutes felt like hours. Every second, more Kalari streamed aboard. The final ship to dock brought 500 people, including Thurlan's sister and her 3 children. Thurlan sobbed as she held them. Her skin blazing with joy and grief mixed together. Then the Harvesters opened fire on the convoy again. 3 Kalari ships exploded before they could finish docking. A jump now. Admiral Chen ordered the quantum drives activated. Reality folded. The Endeavor and Mercy vanished, leaving the Epsilon Eridani system behind. But they left the Defiant and Guardian to cover their escape. And they left 10,000 Kalari behind, still waiting in their damaged ships. Watching the space where the human vessels had been, Alina collapsed at her station, tears streaming down her face. They had saved 40,000, but they had abandoned 10,000 to certain death. Thurlan stood beside her, skin pulsing with complicated colors. You came back for us, she whispered. No one has ever come back for us. The Endeavor drifted in empty space between jumps, packed with refugees, damaged and exhausted. But alive. Behind them, the Harvesters continued their work, consuming everything that remained. The Endeavor hung in the darkness between stars, its systems barely holding together. The quantum drive had worked, pulling them away from the Kalari system, but now it was dead. Chief Engineer Marcus Rodriguez reported that it would take at least 6 hours to charge for another jump. 6 hours while they drifted in the void, hoping the Harvesters hadn't followed them. The ship was packed far beyond its design capacity. 40,000 Kalari refugees filled every available space. The corridors were so crowded that crew members had to squeeze sideways to move through them. The life support systems screamed warnings about carbon dioxide levels and temperature regulation. Dr. Osei's medical teams worked without rest, treating injured Kalari and managing the health crisis of severe overcrowding, but the Kalari were quiet and grateful. They understood that these humans had just sacrificed their own safety and comfort to save them. Families sat together in tight clusters, sharing what little food and water the humans could distribute. Their glowing skin provided gentle light in the dimmed corridors. Where power had to be conserved, Alina moved through the refugee sections, helping where she could. She saw a Kaleri mother nursing an infant whose skin pulsed with soft pink light. She saw elderly Kaleri teaching human crew members words in their melodic language. She saw a group of Kalari children playing a hand game with young human engineers, all of them laughing despite everything. On the bridge, Admiral Chen faced a harder reality. The UESS Mercy had made the jump successfully and was reporting similar overcrowding. But the frigates Defiant and Guardian had stayed behind to cover the escape. They had never been meant to survive. Commander Okonkwo stood beside the Admiral, monitoring long-range sensors. They were watching for any sign that the harvesters had detected the quantum jump signature and followed them. So far, the sensors showed nothing. But everyone knew that could change. Status of the Defiant and Guardian. Admiral Chen asked quietly. Okonkwo shook his head. No signal. Either they're maintaining radio silence, or he didn't finish the sentence. Everyone knew what the silence meant. Lieutenant Webb, his face bore fresh burns from a console explosion during the battle, approached the Admiral. His earlier doubts seemed to have vanished, replaced by grim determination. Admiral, we need to talk about the jump back to Earth. Admiral Chen nodded. I know. We're overloaded. It's worse than that. Webb brought up calculations on a datapad. The quantum drive wasn't designed to jump this much mass. With 40,000 extra passengers, the stress on the drive will be extreme. We might make it. We might tear apart mid-jump. And if we do make it, we'll need multiple jumps to get back to Earth. Each jump risks catastrophic failure. What are you suggesting? Webb hesitated. Some of the Kalari could transfer to the Mercy. Spread the load. It's still dangerous, but it improves our odds. Dr. Osei, who had been listening, shook her head. The Mercy is just as overloaded, and moving refugees between ships out here would take hours we don't have. If the harvesters find us, ... The conversation died as Thurlin entered the bridge. She had been helping organize the Kaleri refugees, translating for the human crew, keeping her people calm. Now she looked exhausted, her skin a dull gray that Alina had learned meant deep fatigue. Admiral Chen, Thurlin said through the translation device, "My people wish to thank you. Many of us never thought we would survive this day. You have given us life when we had accepted death." Admiral Chen stood and approached the Kalari counselor. "We did what anyone should do. But Thurlin, we're not safe yet. The journey back to Earth will be dangerous. We understand. We trust you." Those simple words seemed to carry enormous weight. An entire civilization, what was left of it, placing their trust in a species they had met only days ago. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Okonkwo shouted from his station. Contact. Multiple vessels dropping out of quantum space, bearing 270. Everyone froze. The harvesters had found them. But then Okonkwo looked closer at his readings, and his expression changed from fear to confusion. Wait, Admiral, these aren't harvester signatures. They're human. On the view screen, two battered ships appeared, the UESS Defiant and UESS Guardian. They were heavily damaged, trailing atmosphere and debris. But they had survived. They had escaped. The bridge erupted in cheers. Alina felt tears of relief streaming down her face. The frigates had made it. Admiral Chen immediately opened a channel. Defiant, Guardian, report. The voice of Captain Lee from the Defiant came through, weak and strained. "We held them off as long as we could, Admiral. Then we ran like hell. Lost 40% of both crews. Both ships are barely holding together, but we made it. Welcome back, Captain. Take position and prepare for the jump home." But Captain Lee's next words chilled everyone. "Admiral, before we left the Kalari system, our sensors picked up something. The harvesters were doing something to the Kalari homeworld's moon. Some kind of excavation. We weren't sure what it meant until our science officer analyzed the data, paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was tight with barely controlled emotion. There's a facility on that moon, hidden and shielded. Our Kalari passengers told us what it is. It's a data repository. The Kalari has stored their entire civilization's knowledge there. Art, science, history, literature, philosophy. Everything they ever were or knew. 50,000 years of accumulated wisdom, all stored in crystalline data cores. The bridge went silent. Alina turned to look at Thurlin, who had gone completely still. "It's true," Thurlin whispered. "We built it 1,000 years ago, when we first realized our sun might one day die. We wanted to ensure our culture would survive even if our people didn't. But we never thought." Her voice broke. "We never thought we'd need it so soon." Admiral Chen stood very still, processing this information. "If we left now, that repository would be destroyed. The harvesters will consume that moon within days," Thurlin said. "Once it's gone, our civilization will be truly dead. Our children aboard this ship will have no past to remember, no culture to pass on. They'll know their parents were Kalari, but they won't know what that means." Commander Okonkwo spoke carefully. "Admiral, if we go back, we'll lose our head start on the harvesters. They'll be waiting, and our ships are in no condition for another fight," Lieutenant Webb added. "The quantum drives are barely functional. The Defiant and Guardian are held together with emergency patches. One more engagement could destroy us all." Admiral Chen looked at her senior staff, at Thurlin, at the view screen showing the damaged fleet. She was silent for a long moment. Then Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the xenolinguist who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "Admiral, if I may. We came here to save the Kalari. We've saved 40,000 lives. But a people is more than bodies. It's culture, history, identity. If we leave that repository behind, we're letting half of what makes the Kalari who they are die.
Oh.
We didn't come all this way to save half a civilization." Admiral Chen closed her eyes. When she opened them, her decision was made. How long would a retrieval mission take? Okonkwo worked quickly. A small team, fast insertion and extraction. 20 minutes on the surface, maybe 30. But Admiral, who would go? Our Marines are trained for ship combat, not planetary insertion under hostile conditions. I'll go. Dr. Tanaka stepped forward. "I've studied the Kalari language and culture more than anyone. If there are complications with the repository, I'll be the most useful person on the ground." Lieutenant Webb surprised everyone by stepping forward next. "I'll go with her. I've been wrong about this mission from the start. Let me do something right." Within minutes, a team of 8 volunteers was assembled. Dr. Tanaka, Lieutenant Webb, 4 Marines, and 2 engineers. They would take a dropship from the Defiant down to the moon's surface, retrieve the data cores, and return before the harvesters could respond. Thurlin insisted on going to. "It's my people's legacy. I should be there." Admiral Chen shook her head. "Your people need you alive to help them rebuild. Let us do this for you." The fleet made one final quantum jump back to the edge of the Kalari system. The Endeavor and Mercy stayed behind with the refugees, while the Defiant, barely functional, carried the retrieval team toward the moon. Alina monitored communications from the Endeavor. She listened as the dropship launched, as it descended through the thin atmosphere of the dying moon. As it landed near the repository facility, the team had 20 minutes. Already, harvester drones were changing course, converging on the moon. The machines had detected the intrusion. Dr. Tanaka's voice came over the radio. "We're inside. The repository is intact. Beginning data core extraction, 15 minutes. The cores were heavy, each one the size of a human torso, and there were dozens of them. The team worked frantically, loading them onto anti-grav sleds. 10 minutes. Harvester drones entered orbit around the moon. 5 minutes. The team was running for the dropship, dragging the heavy sleds behind them. 3 minutes. Harvester weapons fire began striking the surface around them. Go, go, go. Lieutenant Webb shouted. The dropship lifted off with the team barely aboard. 2 Marines provided covering fire as harvester drones pursued. Energy beams sliced through the thin air. 1 Marine was hit and went down. Webb ran back, grabbed the wounded man, dragged him to the dropship as weapons fire exploded around them. The dropship made it back to the Defiant with 90 seconds to spare. The quantum drives activated. The fleet jumped, and this time, they jumped toward home. The journey back to Earth took 4 months instead of 6. Engineer Rodriguez found ways to optimize the quantum drives, and desperation gave everyone motivation to push the systems harder than they were designed for. Each jump was agony. Each jump risked destroying them all, but each jump brought them closer to home. The Endeavor became a floating city of 2 species learning to live together. The Kalari refugees, initially traumatized and quiet, slowly began to share their culture with their human rescuers. In the overcrowded corridors, Kalari musicians played instruments that produced sounds like crystal chimes and wind through trees. Human crew members sat and listened, enchanted. Kalari scientists, once they recovered from the shock of losing their world, began working with human engineers. They shared knowledge freely, explaining the technology they had sent in their original distress signal. Power systems that could revolutionize Earth's energy grid, medical techniques that could cure diseases, agricultural methods that could end hunger, but more than technology, they shared themselves. Kalari parents told stories to children, both Kalari and human, gathered in cargo bays, converted to makeshift schools, tales of heroes and tricksters, of wise elders and brave explorers. The children listened with wide eyes, and the stories crossed the barrier between species effortlessly. Alina spent hours talking with Thurlin, learning about Kalari history and culture. The counselor told her about the great philosophical debates that had shaped their society, about their art movements and scientific discoveries. She showed Alina holographic images stored on a personal device, pictures of the Kalari homeworld before the harvesters came. Cities with architecture that looked like frozen music. Forests with trees that glowed at night. Oceans filled with bioluminescent life. "It's all gone now," Thurlin said quietly, her skin pulsing with blue sorrow. "Everything except what we carry in the data cores and in our memories." "Then we'll make sure your children know it," Elena promised. "We'll help you preserve it. Build it again." Dr. Tanaka spent her time cataloging the data cores retrieved from the moon. Each core contained vast amounts of information, compressed in ways human technology couldn't yet fully understand. She managed to access some of it with Thurlin's help. What she found amazed her, Kalari poetry that made her weep even in translation. Mathematical theorems that human mathematicians had been struggling with for decades, solved elegantly. Musical compositions that seemed to speak directly to something deep in the human brain. Art that challenged every assumption about what beauty could be. "This isn't just the Kalari's legacy," Dr. Tanaka told Admiral Chen. "This is a gift to the entire galaxy. Any species that encounters this will be richer for it." The fleet lost 2 more crew members during the journey home. One to a medical emergency that Dr. Asay couldn't treat in the overcrowded and understocked medical bay. Another to an accident during a repair operation on the Defiant's damaged hull. The fleet held memorial services for both, and the Kalari attended, singing their own songs of mourning that harmonized strangely and beautifully with human hymns. Lieutenant Webb, who had been so opposed to the mission at the beginning, became one of its strongest advocates. He spent his off-duty hours helping Kalari families settle into their cramped quarters, learning their language, playing games with their children. The burns on his face from the battle were healing into scars. He wore without complaint. Alina asked him once what had changed his mind. He was quiet for a moment, then said, "I watched a Kalari mother thank me for saving her daughter. Her skin glowed gold, which Thurlin told me means pure joy. That woman had lost her homeworld, her husband, probably half her family, but she could still feel joy because her child was alive. That's when I understood. We didn't save 40,000 aliens, we saved 40,000 people." As they approached Earth's solar system, Admiral Chen sent a message ahead, updating Earth's command on everything that had happened. The loss of the Valiant. The successful rescue of 40,000 Kalari refugees. The data cores containing an entire civilization's knowledge. The threat of the harvesters. The response from Earth was overwhelming. Every major news network broadcast the fleet's story. People gathered in public squares to watch footage of the rescue operations. Debates erupted about what humanity's response should be to the Harvester threat. But beneath the fear was pride. Humanity had reached out across the stars and done something good. When the battered fleet finally entered Earth's solar system, they were greeted by a sight that brought tears to Elena's eyes. Dozens of ships, civilian and military, had come out to escort them home. They formed an honor guard, broadcasting messages of welcome, and as the Endeavour approached Earth's orbit, the planet below lit up with signals of celebration. Cities that were on the night side turned on every light they had. It looked like the planet was glowing. Welcoming the Kaleri to their new home, Thurlin stood on the bridge beside Admiral Chen and Alina, looking at Earth for the first time. Her skin blazed with colors cycling so fast they couldn't be read. She was crying, tears running down her luminescent cheeks. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Thank you. Thank you for sharing your world with us." The United Nations had worked for months to prepare for the Kaleri arrival. The New Horizons Protocol granted all Kaleri refugees full citizenship rights on Earth and its colonies. Temporary housing had been set up in several countries. Medical facilities were ready to help the Kaleri adjust to Earth's slightly different gravity and atmosphere. Schools prepared to welcome Kaleri children. But more importantly, humanity prepared to learn. Scientists, artists, philosophers, and ordinary citizens all wanted to meet the Kaleri, to learn from them. To help them rebuild what had been destroyed, the fleet docked at Luna Orbital Station, the same place they had departed from 14 months earlier. The crew who had left were not the same people who returned. They had seen wonders and horrors. They had lost friends and made new ones. They had learned that humanity was capable of both courage and compassion on a scale they had never imagined. As the Kaleri refugees began disembarking, carefully guided by human volunteers who had prepared for weeks to help them, Alina stood with Thurlin at the airlock. The counselor was holding her sister's children, the ones she had been reunited with during the evacuation.
What will you do now?"
Alina asked. "Live," Thurlin said simply. "Help my people build a new life. Share what we know with yours. Mourn what we lost. Honor those who didn't make it." She paused. "And make sure our children know what happened here. That when we sent our distress call into the void, hoping someone might hear, humanity answered." The Kaleri integrated into human society faster than anyone expected. Their technology revolutionized Earth's energy infrastructure. Their medical knowledge saved lives. Their art-filled galleries and concert halls. Their children learned English and Mandarin and Arabic and taught humans their own language in return. But they also brought warnings. The harvesters were still out there. They had consumed the Kaleri system and would eventually look for more resources. Earth needed to be ready. The United Nations authorized the construction of a new fleet. Larger ships, better weapons, advanced defenses designed with both human and Kaleri knowledge. Admiral Chen was promoted to Fleet Admiral and given command of the new task force. Her mission? Protect Earth and its allies from any future harvester incursion. Commander Okonkwo helped design the new ships. Dr. Osei established the first joint human-Kaleri medical research facility. Dr. Tanaka worked with Kaleri scholars to fully decode the data cores, establishing a joint cultural preservation project. Lieutenant Webb joined the new diplomatic corps, helping other refugee Kaleri groups who were discovered in distant systems. Alina returned to her old job at Arecibo. But now she was listening for new signals with Kaleri scientists beside her. They taught her to recognize patterns humans had never noticed before. Together, they searched the stars, hoping to find others who might need help before it was too late. 1 year after the fleet returned, a memorial was dedicated at Luna Orbital Station. It listed the names of every crew member who had died during the mission. 347 names. Carved in stone from Earth and luminescent crystal from the data cores, Admiral Chen stood at the memorial with Thurlin. Around them, humans and Kaleri gathered to honor the fallen. Children of both species played together, not caring about the differences between them. Lieutenant Webb told me something before the mission, Thurlin said softly. He said your people didn't have to come. He was wrong, Admiral Chen replied. We did have to come, because that's who we chose to be. Thurlin's skin glowed with golden joy and blue sorrow mixed together. Your people gave us more than rescue. You gave us hope. You showed us that even when civilizations die, compassion survives. Intelligence and technology are not enough. What matters is whether beings choose to help each other. Above them, construction crews worked on the new fleet ships. Sleek vessels designed by human and Kaleri engineers working together. Ships that would be ready when the next crisis came. Because everyone knew it would come eventually, but for now, there was peace. Two species learning to live together. 40,000 refugees finding new homes on a planet that had welcomed them. A memorial to courage and sacrifice. And the knowledge that when the distress signal had reached Earth, humanity had made the right choice. The SOS had reached Earth. Earth had answered. And the galaxy would never forget what that meant. In the years that followed, when new species were encountered, when new alliances formed, when the community of intelligent civilizations began to grow, they all learned the story of the Kaleri rescue. It became a legend. A reminder that the measure of a civilization wasn't in its weapons or its technology, but in what it chose to do when someone called for help. In every ship that left, Earth from that day forward carried a simple message encoded in its identification beacon. For words that summed up humanity's promise to the cosmos, we hear you, coming.